Yes, I'm telling your viewers, I love them. In my picks, you'll hear them later on.
Yeah,
that is my best bet.
You'll hear it, and it's better.
Yes, that is my best bet.
Two or three seeds in the conference, I think.
That's not bad.
All right, we are live on the Doug Siravo Show, the second episode of Season 5. Last week we had Michael Lepore discussing the National Football League. He actually got his bet correct with the Houston Texans, and they won their first game of the season. Today we have James Siravo, longtime Capital fan, the winningest goaltender in Monroe Falcons ice hockey JV history. He broke all my records, unfortunately. So, James, how are you today?
Not bad. How are you?
Pretty good. So, before we get into this season, give me a recap of last year's Washington Capitals.
It was an okay season. We lost. The thing that stood out the most would probably be the Verona trade, which we had nothing to do with the season. That just goes to show that the season wasn't that exciting. We lost in the first round to the Boston Bruins. It wasn't that good of a series. And that was pretty much it.
And Mark Merrill and I were correct that that was a bad trade. Andrew Mackin, don't worry, you're still wrong about that. So, as a goaltender, what do you think about the Capitals' goaltending situation between Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek, who was reacquired from Seattle?
Well, I think it's a pretty good duo. They're not both like top 10 goalies in the NHL, neither one of them, but they're strong goalies. So it's not like you have one okay starter goalie and one not so good backup. You have two pretty good starters that could provide flexibility, knowing you'll have a good goalie in the net for every game.
All right, so let's take a look at this Washington Capitals roster once I pull it up. If we look at these lines, do these look like lines of a team that can win another Stanley Cup? You got Ovi, you got Kuznetsov, you got Wilson, then you got Manther, then you got Backstrom, then you got Oshie, you got Sherry, you got Eller, you got Sprong, then you have Hagelin, Dowd, Hathaway. And again, these aren't the actual lines. These are just projections based on the roster they have today. Orlov, Carlson, Kepney, Justin Schultz, Nick Jensen, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and then the goalies we got Samsonov and Vanacek. So is this a team that could come out of the Metro, come out of the East, and be a contender for another Stanley Cup? Because it looks like this is a team that's getting older within Backstrom, Carlson, Oshie, and Ovi.
I definitely say they're a contender to make the playoffs for sure, because the core is still there with Ovechkin, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Wilson. You have good defense up there with Carlson, Orlov, and the goaltending is there, but it's just not. I don't think it's strong enough to carry them that far throughout the season, but we'll see.
All right, so if we look at the standings last year, I believe this is a team that had one of the best records, I would say, in the Metro. Once I pull it up, I think last year they went. Now we got to update it to 2021. This is a team that went 36, 15, and 5. So this is a team that played well throughout the 56 game season, but what fell apart in the postseason against the Boston Bruins, who ultimately fell to the New York Islanders, who ultimately fell to the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning?
I just don't think the energy was there. I don't think there's enough leadership. There isn't enough wanting to win the cup in the room. And I was watching the game last season where Samsonov, he left the puck for I think it was Jensen or Schultz, but he really should have just swung around the boards. But there was the guy who eventually scored the goal for the Bruins was right on Schultz, so it created a turnover. He stole the puck right from Schultz, and they scored on Samsonov, so that really sent the momentum for the Bruins to eventually win the series.
So now I want to get on the conversation of Alex Ovechkin. I think he's 100-something away from Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Prior to 2018, he wanted that Stanley Cup. He got it in 2018, went on that phenomenal run. But when you watch him play, he had that hunger, he had that energy, he had that passion to want to go out and win a Stanley Cup. Barry Trotz pushed that on him and the rest of the organization, the rest of the team. He did the same thing with the New York Islanders. Does Ovi care again to win another Stanley Cup? Or if we look at Ovi, you know what? He got one. He had the time of his life that summer. Probably doesn't remember anything at all the way he drank and the rest of the team did. So does he care about winning another Stanley Cup, or does he just want to go out there and score as many goals as he can and break that record that Wayne Gretzky has held for the last 20, 30 plus years?
I don't think he cares about winning the Stanley Cup. He would like to, but he's just not willing to put in all that work again to get it. It's just easier for him now just to keep on scoring goals to beat Gretzky's record, so that's his next goal.
He came back for a 5-year deal, so it's looking like he's going to remain a Capital for the rest of his career. What does this mean to the city that drafted him, the organization that drafted him, in an era where a lot of guys are chasing the big money, or in an era where you don't win a championship, you request a trade, and you go somewhere else to win? So what does this mean that the Great Eight will remain a Capital for the rest of his playing career, unless he goes and finishes out in Russia after these 5 years, or whenever he breaks the record?
Yeah, I think it is really good just to see him to stay loyal to the franchise that drafted him and gave him the best career that he could have. In my opinion, if you're really one of the greatest in history, that's if you just stay with that one franchise that drafted you, because that means that they want you there. Just like how you could see Kobe Bryant, how he was with the Lakers his whole career.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys like LeBron that jump ship and go to every team that they can to play and win a championship. You know, he did a super team in Miami. Then he came back to Cleveland. Then he went to L.A. Who knows where he's going to go next, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Let's get to the core. How important was it that the Capitals kept that core and didn't tear it apart like some organizations do?
I mean, it is extremely important because they've had that core for, I'd say, like 5 years now, and for those few years that they've had the core, they've been putting up a fight. They've been up there in the standings, like first place in the Metro for like the past 5 seasons. So that core really helps them to give them a chance to win another Stanley Cup.
All right, if you're just joining us, we got James Siravo on to discuss the Washington Capitals in the future. We're going to have plenty of guys to come on to discuss their teams and what their organization and their team has moving forward. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Again, thank you for joining the Doug Siravo Show on Siravo Broadcasting. We will be right back.
Where the Monroe Falcons are playing the St. Joseph of McCutcheon Falcons.
Past that game's history, we have a state's championship on our mind now.
The Ranch, the Buffalo.
It all works together very nicely.
Welcome to Falcons Insider.
Falcons Insider.
On today's episode, we're doing a lot of great work. You know, this is work that people said couldn't have been done
A
before.
lot of money doing something you love.
Re-elected team reporter.
Yeah, what a season that was for you. 54 points in 18 games.
But definitely, I mean, when I said that we're going to win GMCs, I think that's another one that we remember. Yeah.
Without history. You just said it with so much confidence.
All right, we are back on the Doug Siravo Show again. If you're just joining us, we have James Siravo on to discuss his Washington Capitals, the one-time Stanley Cup champion in 2018. It's been a long time coming for this organization. So, James, reflect on that 2018 season. You know, it seemed like when they were down 2-0 against Columbus that it was going to be the same old Capitals. Game 3 could have gone either way, and if they're down 3-0, who knows? You may not see a Stanley Cup in Washington. So take me through this 2018 season, what it meant to you, the city, the franchise, the organization. Because I remember watching that game in 2016, and you were in 2015 when Stepan scored, you just sat there and you didn't move for at least an hour. So let's go back to 2018 and tell me how much this meant to you, the city, the organization, and all those involved with the Washington Capitals franchise.
Yeah, in 2018, when the season began, I wasn't sure what was going to happen because the past few years, hasn't been anything accomplished because from like 2015, 2014 on, we were a very strong team. Yet we couldn't even get past the second round. We couldn't get past the Penguins, the Rangers. We blew like 3-1 leads. But in 2018, we're a very strong team. We got to the first round against the Blue Jackets. We're down 2-0. Trost decides to start Holtby instead of Grubauer. And then they end up winning that game, and they end up taking the series 4-2. And then in the second round,
First Pittsburgh again.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen that series, but I knew if the Caps get past the second round, which has always been like the top of the hill, I knew once they did that, they were winning the Stanley Cup. And then that's what happened. And it was especially what made that Stanley Cup final more meaningful was that it was up against the Vegas Golden Knights, a franchise team. A very great series to watch. We have Braden Holtby's The Save, which changed the series around. They're down. If Tuck scored that goal, Vegas could have easily sent that game into overtime and won that game and changed the series.
In Vegas, too, with that crowd. Seattle had a good crowd for preseason, too, which is pretty interesting.
And then the Caps would eventually go on to win the Cup. Ovi would lift it. You could definitely feel the energy for when Ovechkin picked up the Cup. And then there are a lot of Caps fans too in Vegas. You could see it.
How much do you think those tickets cost?
Definitely a few grand.
All right, let's get to Braden Holtby. He hasn't been the same since he left Washington. What do you think the issue is with him? Is it, last year with everything going on with COVID, quarantine and all? Do you think Braden Holtby will bounce back with the Dallas Stars? A good team who went to the Stanley Cup a few years ago?
It's possible. Holtby's a good goaltender. What really helped him would be obviously having a good team in front of him with the Caps, but he had a good goalie coach, Mitch Korn, which really helped develop him. And when he left the Caps, when Holtby left the Caps, when Barry Trotz left the Caps, Mitch Korn went with him to the Islanders. So, and you could see what good of a team the Islanders became and what great goaltending they had just from those two coaches. So, Holtby, I don't think the Dallas Stars are that good of a team, but Holtby still has a couple years left. I know he could put up good numbers. He is a good goaltender. He's done it before. But is he a top 15 goal? Is he a major elite starter? I don't think so, but he's still a good goalie. So we'll see what happens.
All right, before we take a quick commercial break, a year ago today, Marilyn Israel and I kicked off her campaign. Not really kicked it off because this was just the start before the election day where we had our sit-down interview, which you could find on YouTube, and we had our campaign rally October 4th. So next Monday, you could find the video. I may play it live so you guys could rewatch it, but you could also find it on YouTube as we have that 1-year anniversary of history. Marilyn Israel went on to win her campaign election, and we are looking forward to see what she brings in 2024. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, James will do some predictions and give us his top 3 surprise teams to make it to the Stanley Cup. We'll be right back after this. All right, we're back on the Doug Siravo Show. Again, if you're just joining us, we have James Siravo here, the former Monroe Falcon and lifelong Capitals fan. James, now it's time for a different type of segment. We're not going to talk Washington Capitals. We're not going to talk the top teams. But what I want today is your top 3 surprise teams to go on a run, not just to win the Stanley Cup, but maybe go and play for the Stanley Cup.
First one, would have to be the Seattle Kraken. We saw in 2018 with the Vegas Golden Knights. No one expected that. What really helped them get to the Stanley Cup would be great goaltending from Marc-Andre Fleury. We see that with the Kraken, who signed Philip Grubauer, who is
Former Capital.
Yes, he's an excellent goalie. He's not. I don't think he's as good as Fleury, but he is an elite goalie. So that will really help out the Kraken, who do have good players like Yanni Gord, who I expect to break out next season. So, and then
Number two
would have to be the New York Rangers.
Ooh.
They have great goaltending in Igor Shesterkin and Georgiev. They have great offensive powers in Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider,
Kevin Rooney.
and then Lafreniere too, Kako. And then
Jack Hughes is better.
And on defense, you have Adam Fox, the reigning Norris Trophy winner. So,
Dougie Hamilton is better.
and then speaking of Dougie Hamilton, my third team would have to be the Devils.
Attaboy.
I feel like they've been due to go nowhere but up, but not that.
Basically. Where else are we going to go? To the bottom again?
It's possible it's the Devils, but the Devils, Mackenzie Blackwood is a great goaltender. I knew it. I knew he'd be the Devils' future once I saw that they drafted him a few years back. He did finish the season off strong, I think, with like a .930 save percentage. It was this year or last year, one of those. And then you signed Bernier too to be a solid backup.
Got Nico Heischer, Jack Hughes, Alex Holtz, Darcy Mercer.
That's what it is. As long as
You got the young talent, people. We're going to be good for a while.
the Devils had so many years of being at the bottom that they had so many times to draft good players, and this is a time that the players that they drafted needed to end up being good prospects.
Luke Hughes. Can you imagine how drunk Jack and Luke will be if they win the Stanley Cup? Can you imagine that, people? Can't be better than Ovi. Ovi was super drunk. Lightning were pretty drunk, too. That's the beauty of winning the Stanley Cup. And let's do a quick Stanley Cup final pick. Who we got? And Conn Smythe winner.
I'm going to have to go with Vegas over the Islanders. Conn Smythe winner.
Robin Leonard.
Yeah, probably.
That's his team now. That's just Leonard is all Vegas now. Fleury's in Chicago. It's going to be interesting. Going to be an interesting full 82 game season. I think we're all looking forward to it. I truly can't wait for it to see what the Devils have in store. New players, young and rising. Dougie Hamilton chose the Devils. That's the best part, is he chose to be here because he sees where we are heading. James, thanks for joining me. Best of luck this season. Can't wait to see the Devils play the Caps again, with the Devils hopefully coming out on top for the first time in probably 25-plus games.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Again, thank you for joining us on the Doug Siravo Show. We have plenty more to get to in Season 5. We're going to have Mark Merrill on to discuss his Pittsburgh Penguins. James DiGiacomo discussing his Tampa Bay Lightning. We had James Siravo discussing his Washington Capitals. I think we're going to have Austin Schoening on in the future to discuss the New Jersey Devils. And I think Kyle Esposito will be on the day after we go to the Seattle Devil game to discuss that game and whatever we decide to talk about. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for supporting the Doug Siravo Show, Siravo Broadcasting, and all those involved with Siravo Broadcasting. See you guys next time, and take care. Oh, and Michael Lepore, Stutz Betting, #1 sponsor. Take care.